In today's video, I'm going into addictions and specifically around drinking and how myself, I was drinking to cope, just to make it through the difficulties. But then why is it that I was choosing this for myself? And, like how to shift or what you can do to change that. So this week I'm going into addictions and specifically around relationships with others and relationships with yourself, in relation to yourself. And today I was thinking about how I actually was drinking extensively during the time of when I was really burned out. So in the videos last week, I talked about being burned out and exhausted and working crazy, crazy hours. And so I would go home and be drinking every night. Or there was even times at work where like my office mates would like pull out a bottle of scotch at 10 in the morning and we'd all drink a shot. Now, granted, we weren't just drinking the whole bottle down, but still we were drinking a shot at 10 in the morning at work. It was something that is like, wow, how often do I get into a place where all of us are doing this, and it was just normal. It was seen as, like, we even had a supervisor come in, it was like, oh, pour me a glass as well, so it was like, it was normal in our workspace, to be in a place where you're using substances, drinking, whatever it is, to get by, to cope. So for myself, I was then drinking every night, and I loved red wine, so my drink of choice was these red wines. And I then would, be drinking all the time, and, we'd have beer o'clock at work, we'd have all these different things that it was like, it's just normal. But for me, I really was using it to cope. And I think that's what most of us were doing. Like, we were just using it to get by, to cope, to get through this, the exhaustion and the wear on ourselves that we were putting in the tire, everything we were putting ourselves through. And so we would drink just to kind of be like, just numb myself, to feel better. But I share that because it's like, well, why are we doing that to ourselves? Like, here I was working on some of the biggest feature films I'd ever worked on, and I was, in a place where I was, becoming a lead or supervisor, and I was working up the ranks, like here I was chasing after status, like, oh, if I get this status, I'm gonna be meaningful, I'm gonna be worthy, and I'll be happy. And yet I was seriously the most unhappy in my life. Like, I really was not happy in this place of, like chasing after bigger and bigger and bigger. And it got to a point too where it's like, okay, I chased after the supervisor role, I chased after the next big film, I chased after, and I kept getting more and more and more. But I got to this place where it was like, I can't make it bigger. Like, I can't go beyond this because my body can't cope with it. My mind is like too worn out and tired and unhappy, like really unhappy. So when I got to that place, I had to rethink, like, is this really what life is? Like, is this really what I want? And now, granted, it took me years to shift from this, like I was in the middle of it and drinking, and then at a certain point I stopped drinking because I was like, I don't want this life for myself. Like, I want to shift out of it. And in stopping drinking, I actually think that that's when I had to start facing things in myself, or I had to start looking at, what is the life that I truly then want? What is it that I want to, have in my life? What is really happy for me? And so I worked at the studio for 5 years, and it was about halfway through when I actually stopped drinking. So it was still another couple of years before I ended up leaving. But I think it was during that time of me stopping drinking that I then actually started to look inward, make choices, change up things for myself. So I offer up the story because what I see in my experience was that as long as I was drinking, I just kept coping. I just kept getting by, I just kept doing the same thing in and out and not actually facing any of the things in myself or not actually making a change. Now, granted, I probably could have gotten to a point where my body completely shut down, or, things happen where, it's like the universe is kind of going, we're making you change now, versus me actually stopping drinking, which I'll do another video this week talking about how I stopped drinking. But at the time, again, with me stopping drinking, I then actually could start, seeing in myself, well, what is it that I actually do want in life? How do I really want to change or be? And is it really about chasing the status still all the time? And so it's kind of after that point that things started to change in my life, and I started to no longer chase after bigger and chase after these things of status. So again, where you are is where you are right now. If you're in the thick of it and you're drinking and coping, that's where you are. And I would ask, is this really the life that you want? Is it really? And then can you change it? Can you start to make shifts and changes? And for me, it really was stopping drinking, and then I still didn't know for a while, so it was exploring, other things in my life that actually really did give me joy. So again, this week, I'll continue sharing around relationships with others that have addictions and with yourself as well, and continuing to explore and look at what it is and how we're managing through these things. So thank you again for joining me today. I'm AmyC with You Finding You. And again, if you are enjoying and getting value out of these videos, do hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And thank you again. I'll see you in the next video.